The room was quiet except for the sound of my own breathing. I remember the way his hand slid over my thigh, slow and heavy, like he owned me. My back was pressed against the cold wall of the hotel room, my lips parting just a little as he leaned closer. His breath smelled faintly of bourbon, warm and tempting. His body blocked the light, his eyes burned into mine, and I knew what was about to happen. I wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to feel my heart pounding that way for another man. But in that moment, I didn't care. My wedding ring was still on my finger, but my mind, my body, they had already betrayed my vows. I could feel the heat of his lips inches from mine, the weight of his chest pressing against me, the sharp ache in my stomach that came from wanting something I wasn't supposed to want. And just when it was about to happen, when our clothes had started to fall away, when the danger of it was louder than my own conscience, I need to pause right here. Because before I tell you everything, before I confess how deep I went, I need you to do something for me. Backhand index pointing right. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. This story, it's not like the others. It's real. It's raw. And by the time you hear the end, you'll understand why I said I regret everything. Alright. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. Because nights like that don't just happen out of nowhere. They're built slowly, piece by piece, until you find yourself standing in a hotel room with a man who isn't your husband, trembling for him. I live in a quiet American suburb. From the outside, my life looks perfect. White painted house, trimmed lawn, a husband who works hard, neighbors who wave when I drive past. I wear the smile. I cook the dinners. I play the role of the good wife. But what people don't see are the spaces between that picture-perfect life. The long nights when my husband doesn't touch me. The mornings when he rushes out the door with his coffee, barely glancing in my direction. The way we've become strangers sleeping side by side, like two people renting space in the same bed. At first, I told myself it was normal. That all marriages cool down eventually. That I should be grateful for stability. But gratitude is hard to feel when you're lonely. And loneliness, well, it makes you reckless. That's how he came into the picture. I won't tell you his name. Even saying it out loud feels like handing you the last piece of my privacy. But I'll tell you this, he wasn't a stranger. He was someone who should have been safe. Someone who had no business looking at me the way he did. The first time we spoke, it was nothing, just a casual conversation in the parking lot outside a store. He was funny, charming, the kind of man who knew how to make you feel like you were the only woman in the world when he talked to you. I laughed more in those 10 minutes than I had in weeks at home. That laugh, that spark. It lit something inside me I thought was dead. At night, I caught myself thinking about him. In the shower, I imagined what his hands might feel like if they traced the curves of my body. And every time I did, I hated myself a little more. But it didn't stop me. One message turned into two. Two turned into hours of conversation. And before I realized it, he wasn't just a distraction. He was a secret. That night in the hotel room didn't just happen. It was the result of 1,000 choices. Tiny ones that built up like bricks until I was trapped in a wall of my own making. He made me feel alive again. Desired. Seen. Things my husband had stopped giving me years ago. When he touched my arm for the first time, I should have pulled back. I should have remembered my vows, my life, the man waiting at home. But instead, I let his hand linger. That's when I knew I was already in too deep. The truth is, I didn't just fall into temptation. I ran toward it. And that's what led me to that hotel room, my hands trembling, my heart pounding, my body betraying me. The part one haven't told you yet is that I wasn't only living in the moment. I was also recording it. My phone was on the dresser, hidden but pointed in our direction. I caught it on camera. And that's where my regret begins. I'll tell you exactly how I got from boredom in a suburban kitchen to pressing record in a hotel room. But for now, I need you to stay with me, because the details matter. Every little step I took, every decision I made, is what brought me to the night that almost cost me everything. This is only the beginning of my confession. When people ask what destroys a marriage, they expect to hear words like cheating, lies, or money. But the truth is, sometimes it's not the big things. Sometimes it's the little cracks that go unnoticed until one day you realize your house is collapsing around you. My husband and I had been married for years. On paper, it looked fine. We had a comfortable home in an American suburb, a reliable routine, and no scandals. To neighbors and friends, we were the stable couple everyone trusted. I played the part of the smiling wife, hosting dinners, laughing at his jokes, pretending I was happy. But inside our home, things were different. We barely touched each other anymore. We barely even talked. He was consumed with work, coming home late, exhausted, distracted, living in his own world. And me? I was left to fill the silence. At night, I would lie in bed and look at his back turned away from me, wondering when exactly we had stopped reaching for each other. I missed feeling wanted. I missed being seen. I missed being touched like I mattered. And that's why, when he came along, I was easy prey. I first saw him at a coffee shop near my job. He wasn't a stranger in town. Everyone knew him, though I had never spoken to him directly before. That day, he smiled at me across the counter, and I felt something stir inside me. Something I hadn't felt in years. His smile lingered, and when he spoke, his voice carried a kind of warmth that caught me off guard. He asked about my day. Not in the casual, polite way most people ask. He meant it. He looked into my eyes and waited for my answer. That tiny moment shouldn't have mattered. But to a woman starving for attention, it felt like a feast. We bumped into each other again a few days later. This time, we talked a little longer. He cracked a joke that made me laugh so hard I had to cover my mouth. And when I looked up, I saw the way he was watching me. That look, that mixture of admiration and something more dangerous, sent a current through me. It started innocently. A wave when we passed each other. A casual chat when we stood in line. But then came the first message. He found me on social media, and at first, it was harmless. He sent a friendly hello. We exchanged a few jokes. But one conversation turned into another, and soon we were talking late at night, my phone lighting up under the sheets while my husband snored beside me. The thrill of those hidden messages was like a drug. I'd wait for that ping, my heart racing, my hands trembling as I typed back something playful, something flirty, something that crossed a line I knew I shouldn't cross. He told me I was beautiful. He told me I looked lonely. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I started dressing differently when I knew I might see him, lip gloss, tighter jeans, a blouse that showed just enough to hint. It wasn't for my husband. It was for him. The first time he touched me, it was small. His hand brushed against mine as he handed me my coffee. But the way my skin burned where he touched me, it was like a switch had flipped inside me. A week later, when he leaned close to whisper something in my ear, his lips grazed my cheek. My whole body froze, and then melted at the same time. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that moment in my mind, over and over again, while my husband lay peacefully beside me. That's when I knew I was in trouble. I told myself I wouldn't go further. That it was just harmless flirting, nothing more. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. Because the next time he suggested meeting somewhere private, my heart said yes before my mind could stop it. The first time we met outside of those casual encounters, it was in his car. He parked in a quiet corner of town, and I slipped into the passenger seat like a teenager sneaking out at night. My hands were shaking, my stomach tied in knots. We didn't kiss that time. We just talked. But the way he looked at me, the way he brushed his fingers across my knee before I left, that was enough to leave me aching for more. I wish I could tell you I stopped there. That I came to my senses, went home, and fixed my marriage. But that's not what happened. Because once you taste something forbidden, it doesn't go away. It grows. It consumes you. Every time my phone buzzed, I felt that rush of adrenaline. Every time I saw him, I found myself drifting closer, drawn into his orbit. And every time I lied to my husband about where I was or who I was with, the guilt should have eaten me alive. But instead, the danger made it sweeter. And this is where things start to spiral. Because that's the thing about secrets, they demand more. One small lie becomes two. Two lies become a habit. And before you realize it, you're in over your head, living two lives, not sure which one is real anymore. I was a wife in the daylight. But at night, I was his. And I'll stop here to remind you, because the story is only getting deeper, that if you're listening, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. What I'm telling you isn't easy. But if you stay with me, you'll hear just how far it went. Because in the next part, I'll tell you the night we crossed the line fully. The night everything changed. I still remember the night it finally happened. It wasn't planned. At least, not by me. I told myself 1,000 times I wasn't going to let it go that far. But temptation doesn't listen to rules, and desire doesn't care about promises. He had texted me earlier that day. Just 6 words that set my heart racing. Can I see you tonight? I could have said no. I should have said no. My husband was working late, like always, and I had no real excuse to leave the house. But the truth is, I didn't even hesitate. I wanted to see him. I needed to see him. We met at a small motel just off the highway. The kind of place no one pays attention to, with flickering neon lights and a clerk who barely looked up when I signed in under a fake name. My hand shook as I held the key, but my body was already burning with anticipation. When I walked into the room, he was waiting. The door closed behind me, and it was like the world outside stopped existing. At first, we just stood there, staring at each other, as if we both knew this was the moment everything would change. Then he crossed the room in 3 quick steps and pulled me into his arms. The kiss hit me like a wave, hot, hungry, desperate. My back pressed against the door, his hands roaming over me like he had been starving and I was the feast. I melted into him, every ounce of resistance draining away. I told myself I would stop before it went too far. But his mouth was on my neck, his fingers sliding under the hem of my blouse, and I couldn't think straight. My wedding vows, my husband's face, my quiet suburban life, it all disappeared in the haze of his touch. By the time he laid me down on the bed, there was no turning back. I won't give you every detail, some things are too raw even for me to repeat, but I will tell you this, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. Every nerve in my body was awake. Every kiss was fire. Every whispered word made me sink deeper into a world I knew was dangerous but couldn't walk away from. And when it was over, when I lay there with my head on his chest, I should have been filled with guilt. I should have been sick with regret. Instead, I felt a twisted kind of satisfaction. I had crossed the line. And I didn't regret it, not yet. That first night was the beginning of everything. After that, there was no more pretending. No more innocent conversations or casual meetings. We were lovers. And the secrecy only made it more intoxicating. We met in his car, in quiet parks, in hidden corners of town. Sometimes it was a stolen kiss, sometimes it was more. Each time, the danger made my blood race faster. The lies I told my husband came easier, smoother, like I was rehearsing a script I had memorized. But there was one thing I never expected, how much I wanted to keep those moments. One night, after another stolen meeting, I sat in my car in the dark, scrolling through my phone. My fingers hovered over the camera app. And a thought crossed my mind. What if I captured this? What if I could keep it, replay it, relive it whenever I wanted? At first, I dismissed the thought. It was reckless, insane. If anyone ever saw, if my husband ever found out, it would destroy everything. But the more I thought about it, the more the idea clung to me. Like an itch I couldn't scratch. The next time we met, I propped my phone against my purse on the nightstand, pretending it was charging. The screen faced us. My heart pounded so hard I was sure he could hear it, but I didn't tell him what I was doing. The red light blinked, and just like that, I had crossed another line. Watching myself afterward was both thrilling and terrifying. On that tiny screen, I wasn't the bored housewife from the suburbs. I wasn't the ignored woman lying next to a husband who didn't touch her. I was alive. Desired. Reckless. It was dangerous, yes, but I couldn't stop. And before I go on, let me pause here to remind you. Because this is where things really start to spiral, that if you're still listening, make sure you like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss what happens next, because it's the part where my little secret started to feel more like a ticking time bomb. From that point on, recording became a habit. Sometimes just audio, sometimes full video. It was like I couldn't believe it was real unless I had proof. Proof that I had broken free of my dull life, proof that I was still desirable, proof that I could feel something. But proof comes with a price. And the more I recorded, the heavier the weight of that secret became. Because here's the truth, when you play with fire, it's not a matter of if you'll get burned. It's only a matter of when. And for me, the burn came faster than I ever imagined. The night I pressed record on purpose was the night I stopped being in control. Up until then, I could still tell myself I was only living in the moment, sneaking away for passion, feeding my hunger for attention. But the moment I propped my phone on the dresser, angled just right, and hit that red circle, I crossed into a different kind of danger. It wasn't just about him anymore. It wasn't just about us. It was about capturing something I should have never wanted to remember. That night, the room was dim. The curtains were pulled shut, the air heavy with the smell of bourbon and cologne. He leaned back on the bed, his eyes watching me with that mix of hunger and amusement, the kind of look that made my knees weak. "Come here," he said, his voice low, commanding. And I went. The camera was recording silently in the background, but in my mind, it was louder than anything else. My heart thumped in rhythm with the blinking light I could barely see. I told myself it was just for me. Just for my eyes. A private keepsake, nothing more. But as his hand slid over me, as my body arched under his touch, I knew I was making a mistake. And yet, I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. Afterward, when he was gone and I was alone in that hotel room, I sat on the edge of the bed with my phone in my hand. My fingers trembled as I opened the video. The screen lit up, and there I was, me, but not the me I saw every day in the mirror. Not the tired wife, not the ignored woman waiting for a husband who barely looked her way. On that screen, I was alive. Bold. Desired. Watching myself was intoxicating. I replayed it again and again, the sounds, the movement, the way my face looked when I let go of every ounce of control. I couldn't believe it was me. It felt powerful. It felt dangerous. It felt addictive. But power has a way of turning on you. The next day, I caught myself watching the video in my car, parked in front of a grocery store. My heart raced as I glanced at the people walking past, terrified someone might look through the window and see what I was watching. I quickly closed it, but later, I opened it again. It was like a secret drug. And the more I watched, the deeper the hook sank into me. But along with the thrill came fear. What if I forgot to delete it one day and my husband picked up my phone? What if I backed up my photos and it ended up in some cloud I didn't understand? What if, by some horrible accident, it leaked online? Every time my husband reached for my phone, even for something simple like checking the time, I felt my chest seize up. My palms would sweat, my throat would tighten. I'd snatch it away before he could even touch it. And of course, he noticed. "Why are you so protective of your phone lately?" he asked one evening, his brow furrowed. I forced a laugh. "Work stuff. Private messages. You know." He didn't press, but I could see the suspicion in his eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining him unlocking my phone somehow, scrolling through my videos, finding the one thing that would shatter our marriage forever. I told myself I would delete it. But when I opened the file and hovered over the trash icon, I froze. My thumb wouldn't move. It wasn't just a video anymore. It was proof that I was still alive. Proof that I hadn't disappeared into the quiet, invisible role I had been forced into. Proof that someone wanted me, badly, dangerously. So I kept it. And that decision was the weight that started to crush me. Weeks went by, and we kept meeting. Sometimes I recorded, sometimes I didn't. But even when I didn't, the thought of the video haunted me. I started having nightmares about it being discovered, my husband holding my phone in his hands, his face pale with betrayal. Or worse, a stranger stumbling across it online, turning me into gossip, into shame. Every buzz of my phone made me jump. Every notification felt like a warning. I became paranoid. When I left my phone at home, I worried my husband might snoop. When I took it with me, I worried I'd lose it. The camera, which once felt like a secret friend, had become my enemy. And here's the cruel part, I still couldn't stop watching it. Late at night, with the lights off and my husband asleep beside me, I'd sneak the earbuds in and press play. My stomach would twist with guilt, but my body still craved it. I would watch myself surrender to him, watch the way he touched me like no one else ever had, and for a moment, I'd forget the danger. But when the screen went dark, the regret would crash over me like a wave. I had caught it on camera. And every day that I kept it, I regretted it more. Let me pause here for a second, because if you're still with me, you already know this isn't some silly story, it's real, it's raw, and it's my truth. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it. The end of this story is where everything I feared almost came true. One night, the nightmare almost became reality. I was in the kitchen when my husband called out, "Hey, can I use your phone?" "Mine's dead." My blood went cold. I fumbled, nearly dropping the plate I was holding. My phone was on the counter just a few feet away, unlocked, screen glowing. He reached for it, and I lunged forward, snatching it up before his hand could touch it. "What's wrong?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "Work emails," I blurted. "Private stuff. You know how it is." He stared at me for a long moment before shrugging, but I saw the doubt in his eyes. And in that instant, I realized how close I had come to losing everything. That night, I sat in bed clutching my phone, the video still saved in my gallery, my thumb hovering once again over delete. My chest ached, my stomach twisted, my whole body trembling with fear and shame. And yet, I still couldn't bring myself to erase it. That was the night I understood the depth of my mistake. The recording wasn't a trophy. It wasn't proof of being alive. It was a ticking time bomb. And I had no idea how long I could keep it from exploding. I don't know how long I thought I could keep living like that, half in my marriage, half in my secret life. But the truth is, secrets are heavy. They crush you from the inside out. The video never left my phone. It sat there, hidden among innocent pictures of dinners, vacations, and family gatherings. Every time I unlocked my gallery, my stomach knotted. My eyes would dart over it, my finger hovering, my pulse racing. "Delete it," I'd whisper to myself. "Just delete it." But I couldn't. It was like I was addicted to my own shame. The more I watched it, the more twisted my emotions became. Part of me loved seeing myself that way, alive, desired, wanted. Another part of me hated the woman on that screen. She was reckless. She was selfish. She was destroying everything she once believed in. And the worst part? That woman was me. Every time my husband came near my phone, my chest tightened. Every time he asked me a simple question, "Who are you texting? Why are you smiling at your phone?" I felt my body jolt like I'd been caught, even though he had no proof. Paranoia became my shadow. I started hiding my phone under my pillow at night. I set up passwords, deleted apps, cleared my history obsessively. Still, I felt exposed, like the secret was glowing through me, visible to anyone who looked too closely. There was one night I almost lost it all. I had fallen asleep with my phone on the nightstand. My husband reached for it in the middle of the night. He wanted to check the time. I woke to see him holding it in his hand, the screen lighting up his face. My heart stopped. I snatched it away so fast it startled him. My voice cracked as I mumbled something about early alarms and work reminders. He gave me a long, hard look, then rolled over. I lay awake the rest of the night, clutching the phone like it was both my lifeline and my noose. The affair itself slowed down after that. Not because the fire burned out, but because the weight of the risk grew too heavy. We saw each other less often, texted less. But the damage was already done. Even after we stopped, the video remained. A ghost in my pocket. A scar on my conscience. One day, I finally gathered the courage to delete it. I opened the file, my thumb hovering over the trash icon, my chest tight, my eyes stinging with tears. I pressed down. And for the first time in months, the video was gone. I thought I would feel free. But I didn't. Because deleting the file didn't erase the memory. It didn't erase the fact that I had done it. That I had betrayed my marriage, betrayed myself, and risked everything for moments that could never last. That's the thing no one tells you about regret, it lingers long after the evidence is gone. So here I am, telling you this anonymously. My husband never found out. No one in my family knows. To them, I'm still the loyal wife, the good woman who smiles in photographs and hosts dinners with grace. But inside, I know the truth. I know what it felt like to step into that hotel room. I know what it felt like to press record. I know the weight of carrying a secret so heavy it nearly broke me. And I know that if I could go back, if I could change one thing, it wouldn't be the affair itself. It would be the moment I decided to capture it. Because that camera didn't just record a night of passion. It recorded my downfall. So if you've stayed with me until the end of this story, thank you. This isn't easy to say out loud. But I needed someone to know. And before I go, let me leave you with this: be careful with your secrets. Be careful with your temptations. And above all, never fool yourself into thinking you're stronger than regret. Because I caught it on camera. And I regret everything. Backhand index pointing right. If you've listened all the way, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. I have more stories to tell, stories I've never spoken to anyone about. And trust me, this isn't the only secret I've kept.